House of D here with spoiler talk for X-Force #1, the second Dawn of X book that released this week. As you can tell by my review, I am loving this issue. Great stuff here. I mean, listen, Colossus is on the cover, so that's already going to give us some points to me. But beyond that, guys, very cool stuff. This issue starts with this really cool scene. We've got all these masked and mysterious figures sitting around a table discussing mutants, declaring their own sovereignty. But to make sure that no one in the room is a mutant, they all have to give some blood. Now they get around to one particular individual, almost looks familiar, and we do find out why. Instead of, everyone else takes their little knife and pricks their fingers and gives blood, but instead of doing that, this character takes the knife and stabs the hand of this big thug that's making everybody give their blood sample. And then we soon discover, after a little scuffle, which this character is overpowered, they put him on the ground, and we do see that this mysterious character is none other than the mutant Domino. Right, so this next scene is really cool. Now, if you watched my spoiler-free review, I talked about this issue actually teaching a lesson to the mutants, and the professor of that lesson being Wolverine. Well, this is where we see that lesson starting to come out. You see, Beast is roaming around Krakoa, looking at various, flora and fauna, and he gets attacked by this huge beast. Wolverine is also in the area and comes to save him, thankfully. Now, even though this beast almost killed the Beast, Hank McCoy, he does make sure Logan doesn't kill him. Wolverine's like, why not kill him? And, he's just gonna, terrorize the island. And Wolverine starts to tell him, like, the reason why that thing snuck up on you is because you weren't afraid. You weren't listening for your surroundings. You were completely secure in your surroundings. And unfortunately, as wonderful as that is, there's always prey. So being comfortable isn't always a good situation to be in, because it can make you very vulnerable. Now we meet up with Black Tom Cassidy. That's right, former villain Black Tom Cassidy, as with all former villains, now has a place in Krakoan society. And his place is that of a security system. That's right, he speaks with all the plants on Krakoa. He's got clouds up in the sky that, make this semi-dome around Krakoa to alert him of any presence in the sky. And he's even got whales and wildlife in the sea that he communicates in order to understand if something is coming from the sea. And he actually gets signals that's happening. Something is coming to Krakoa. He instantly goes to the shore to investigate and learns that it's Kitty Pryde and the Marauders. And more specifically, they have a bunch of mutant refugees from Russia. And what's even cooler for a Colossus fan is that it turns out that Colossus was in Russia trying to help people and secure them to get them to Krakoa. So if you remember back in my Marauders review and spoiler talk, I did kind of complain about, hey, they're in Russia, why isn't Colossus there? Well, now I know why. Colossus was sent to Russia to help get the refugees from that country to Krakoa. He looks like he's badly damaged at this point, obviously been through hell, and Kitty has a real good line when someone asks, well, who's there? And she says, well, it's a man that I don't want to see hurt no more. Well, that's a good thing, because you definitely hurt him more than anything with leaving him at the altar. Okay, anyway, personal vitriol aside, it's a really cool scene. I love the tie-in between this series and the Marauders, so it definitely makes me want to, I'm going to stick with this series for sure, but definitely, if we're going to get all of this intertwined stuff with the Marauders and the X-Men, cool, I'm in it. I'm going to keep on the Marauders as well, but just a cool scene. So we actually start to see kind of the first signs of distress here when Sage reports to Professor X that she doesn't have Domino's signal anymore. Something is definitely amiss. It troubles Xavier a little bit, but definitely not too much, since he goes along his business, goes through a portal, goes to this country called Sokovia, and is trying to convince them to recognize mutant sovereignty and take their gifts. Then we see the scene where Healer and Marvel Girl, they've gathered all the refugees into one room, and so they can start easing their pain and tending to their injuries. However, it's finding it very difficult to communicate with them because, of course, they are Russian, and they kind of hurt everywhere. So there's really a tough time of communicating where exactly the pain is coming from with all these refugees. The next thing that happens is we see these Weapon X looking people. They've hijacked an airplane, and they are now skydiving down into Krakoa. It's obviously like an air invasion. They do get to land on Krakoa, which I didn't really expect, but it's kind of goes back to the you feel too safe, because again, Black Tom Cassidy, he has these countermeasures, and he tells Xavier, like, listen, there's something going on here, something's happening. But Xavier's like, oh, no, we're good. Trust all the mutants, trust any mutant that comes here. Don't worry about a little thing. But then the next thing that's happening is these four, again, Weapon X type soldiers, parachute into Krakoa and just start blasting mutants. Well, of course, this is an island full of mutants, particular Beast, Wolverine, Black Tom Cassidy. They respond in kind. They're taking care of these soldiers, these assailants, but unfortunately one of them does catch up to Professor X. And unfortunately what we see next is, this assailant, this invader of Krakoa shoots Charles Xavier. You see where the bullet goes right through the helmet. We actually don't see a dead Charles Xavier, but we do see the Cerebro helmet with a bullet hole in it, some blood, so we're definitely meant to think the worst. However, I'm not going to get too worked up here, because these are the mutants. They now have that revival protocol. The 5 are still alive, so everything's all right. So I definitely think we're going to see Professor X alive in the very same next issue. But this is definitely a shocking event that, and this is where Beast admits to Wolverine, like, you know what, you're right. We felt too safe, and no matter how safe or superior we think we are, there is always going to be a predator coming after us. So what a great paradigm shift we're seeing from this. Everything is oh so great and heavily on Krakoa. Now we're starting to come to the reality that people are going to come for the mutants, and it's going to be up to the X-Force to quell these threats. So, as I said in my review, I am loving everything about this. Even though there's just a couple brief cameos of my character, I'm at least loving the fact that Colossus is involved. I love the fact that he was the one to go all by himself into Russia to make sure and secure a way for these refugees to escape. I can't think of a more Colossus thing they could have him do. So definitely an awesome series that I'm going to keep in my pool list. I wonder what's going to happen. What's going to happen to Domino? How fast is Professor X going to come back? All these questions, hopefully we'll get more answers to, and we'll probably get even more intrigue. But I'm just loving this, darker CIA, special ops, intelligence, espionage type action that we get in X-Force #1, and hope that it continues. Until next time, guys, you can of course tweet at me at @dsquare72. Leave me some comments. How did you think X-Force #1 went? Do you have any predictions or questions? Definitely let me know in the comics or tweet at me on Twitter. If you enjoy the content, please consider subscribing to my channel, and if you like this video, then please hit the like. That helps out a ton. And if you want to make sure you're always knowing when my next video is coming out, hit that notification bell so you will get that all-important notification that lets you know the House of D has another video out for you. But until next time, guys, as always, peace and love, and we'll see you again soon.